Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome to a brand new episode of Through the Keyhole. So it's been a minute since we've done one of these, so we're going to have a look today at a couple of camps sent in by you guys, members of the community, and we've got a couple of very cool builds to take a look at. So let's jump in. Okay, just a little reminder as usual before we kick off. These are not my camps, these have been sent in by members of the community. We've got two today to have a look at that are really cool, and I would normally have a couple of extras in here, maybe one or two more, but I had plenty to say about these, so rather than running on all day, let's take a little look at the couple we have here, and hopefully we'll have another episode coming up fairly soon. Speaking of, if you guys want to appear in a future episode, do head over to the channel's community page and find the tabs across the top of the channel there. And that will take you down to a post with all of the instructions so you can see how to send your camp in to appear on a future episode, should you want to do that. But with that out of the way, let's jump in and have a look at these camps. Okay, so first camp comes to us from Kirsten Beer, or possibly Kirsten Burr, not quite sure. Always difficult to tell with screen names on this one. This is a PC build, so the theme is what if a crazy hoarder found an abandoned watchtower? So as we can see, the results are scrappy, which is about what you'd expect. So, not too fancy, but I love it. And yeah, that seems fair enough to me. Fancy is not always necessary, and not too fancy definitely describes something that looks considerably more believable generally, at least to my eye. So this is a really cool start. So, yeah, we've definitely got a nicely fortified camp here. We can see the watchtower up in the middle there, sort of towering over everything else, and the rest of the camp being built out from that. Plenty of security, nice junk fence around the outside there, and a pretty cool looking entrance. Good use of the covered bridge there. I've been thinking about picking that thing up for ages, but there's a whole load of stuff in that bundle that I don't want as well. And yeah, the timing has not been quite right on that, so I'm going to have to pick it up eventually. Do you like what's been done with the junk walls here? Got that looks like the communist fence in there. Kind of hard to tell a little bit in the dark here, but judging by the barbed wire at the top, I'm guessing it is. And we've got whole layers and layers of stuff piled up in front of it and behind it. Just give it a bit of extra depth and texture, which always looks good. Looks very, very cool. Nice and secure. Should keep any wasteland beasties out. Coming up a little closer, we can get a nice close look at the wall here. Good combination of stuff. Using that gas station sign is an absolutely brilliant shout. It's one I use quite regularly because it works really well for junk walls. It's big, it's broad, it's solid. It's also easy to work with. It'll fit in gaps quite nicely. It's around about the width of a single foundation, as are most junk walls and things like that. So this works really, really well as sort of something to just drop in there and mix things up. And it's also really forgiving with its placement, and you can change the height quite well on it, which makes for a really, really handy piece if you've got some awkward ground to work with as well. So definitely a good shout using that. Got a few little gaps underneath the fences there that are inevitable with the uneven ground all over the wasteland of Appalachia. So plugging those up with some concrete barricades and some white picket fences and stuff makes for a nice mix and definitely makes the place feel nice and secure. Looking cool. We'll get a nice little look at the front entrance here, Vault Boy indicating the way in, which is always good. It looks like we've got the vending going on down by the entrance there, nice and easy to access for everybody. At least I think this is the entrance. It looks pretty cool. A combination of the basic wood set at the back there, coupled with the covered bridge as well, gives it that nice scrappy vibe. Stuff doesn't quite match, but looks like it's been improvised and somebody's made use of whatever they've been able to get their hands on, mostly wood, to try and put together a structure. It looks pretty cool for that. So definitely a nice entrance stroke welcoming area to head to. Get a bit of a close-up on the inside there. We've got a couple of coffins there that somebody just dragged back. Don't know if those are stash boxes or not. There are two versions of those coffins available. One's a stash box, one's just floor decoration, depending on which you want to go for. I'm going to guess those are just the floor decoration, given that we've got a stash box tucked further back along with a scrap box as well. Actually, it looks like those two might be merged together. Not a bad technique for saving space. The colours match as well with the basic stash box and the scrap box, so that's quite cool. I would like to see some new skins for scrap boxes personally, because that blue one is, I mean, it's easy to find, it's recognisable, but it doesn't have to stick out compared to most of the other stuff we have. So some skins for the scrap box Bethesda would be great, please. And that looks like it's a door on the left there, so yeah, it looks like we can head on into the camp through here. This is an entranceway. Cool, makes sense to me. So peek through the door there, and it's quite an uneven bit of ground here, so challenging to work with, but it looks to me like maybe somehow that tower has sunk into the ground a little bit. Kind of hard to see, really. Slight drawback to taking these shots at night. Get a good look at the lighting doing that, but if you really want to show off your building, perhaps the day is a little bit easier if you can. If you happen to have private worlds, you're a Fallout First member, then as soon as you open up a private world and log into that, you'll find it's about 11 AM, so dead easy time to do that if you happen to have that available. Jump in there and take your pictures around about then. It's basically what I do for most of my videos and thumbnails and stuff like that, so it works quite well. But we've got the decon arch there on the way in, nice and convenient to grab with the switch on the left, making sure you can turn it off. Which is always good if you get blooded bills visiting, because if they can't avoid the decon arch, it's kind of annoying to them, as they use the radiation there. So, good shout. Bet you spend a lot of time turning that off, though. We've got a nice little staircase going up here on the right, which is cool. Good use of the foundations and the stairs. A little bit of glitching to get those together, I think. If you use the right build order, the stairs will snap through foundations. So I'm guessing that's what's going on here. And it looks pretty cool. I quite like that little sort of going around the corner staircase. And I'm guessing, now that I look a little more closely, we can just about see the foundation of the watchtower at the back. Sort of hiding behind the plants, which is cool. Hiding that bit of bare foundation is always a good move. And you will end up with a fair bit sticking out with uneven ground, so building a sort of walkway and a staircase up to that pulls the eye away from it quite nicely. So that's a clever little idea, I like that. So a bit of a reverse angle here coming from the bottom of the watchtower. We can see the sort of entrance shack over there. Fairly simple, but effective. Yeah, we've got the decon arch sitting on a foundation there, so a nice smooth walkway in for that, which is always good. A few bits and pieces out there. The cooking station outside makes sense. Fire in a wooden building, not really a good combination. A few other bits of decoration. We've got a bog on the left there. Bathroom facilities if you need them. Decent look out the crops as well. We've got some open space in the middle here, and because it's so uneven, that can make it quite difficult to use. So planting a few crops does make it look nice and full. And the trees in the area, I don't know if those were unbulldozable or just deliberately avoided, but it does make it look like you're working with the environment you've got if you've got the trees that are already in place still present. So definitely quite cool, although you do struggle a bit with branches clipping through things sometimes, but in this case it looked quite nice. So back down a little bit and have a look at that bathroom facilities in a bit more detail. We've got the suit of armour standing in the bath there. Imagine the poor fella's going to rust quite quickly there, but that's quite cool. Done a decent job of managing to get that porter cabin in there without floating, and given how uneven the ground there is, that could be challenging to do, so that's quite a nice little bit of finagling going on there, I should imagine. Looks quite cool. So bottom level of the tower here, we've got the crafting benches out there. So there's a stash box, we can see that merged with the scrap box there as well. Nice. Got a generator out back. Got a nice open space, plenty of room to move around. You're not going to get caught on stuff, which is good. Nice and secure. The bottom of this thing is big and open and sort of easy to access, so securing it off does look pretty good. Makes a lot of sense out in the wasteland. And cage bulb light, personal favourite of mine. When I did my build way back when in February, which was about when this tower first dropped, so probably due to reappear on the Atomic Shop soon and reflection, I did something somewhat similar to this in terms of putting my crafting space at the bottom of the tower. Makes a lot of sense. You can run in, just access that nice and easily, and if you need to head upstairs, you can. So flip it round a bit. We've got a resource extractor in the corner. I tend to not use those too much personally because I don't find them that practical, and they tend to be very popular places to build, so you're competing to get your camp in there sometimes. But nonetheless, looking good in the corner there. And yeah, a very, very neat job on the foundations, tucking them up to the edge of the concrete foundation of the watchtower there. That's very neat and tidy. Not terribly difficult to do with this foundation, actually. As a general rule, the best way to do it is put the wooden foundations, in this case, in first, and then move the concrete tower base towards the wooden foundation, or at least that's what I found easiest. You go the other way, the collision boxes tend to start playing around and being awkward, but it's given space for the generator here. We've got a few extra bits and pieces just to dress it up, bits of junk and stuff, dash boxes, that sort of thing. Always a good way to make your camp look busy, that, put stash boxes around. And chairs and stuff like that. Just random stuff you've dragged back. Always looks cool. So for last but not least, we'll have a little look at the top area here. We've got a little living space at the top of the tower. This thing can be a bit awkward to decorate. We've managed to get here a little chalkboard on there with some letters as well. We've actually got chalk letters now, which was probably not the case at the time this was built, but Earl Williams is watching me. That's worrying. Very worrying, but nonetheless. So we've got a nice little bit of sheltered bedroom up here and a cooking station in the corner. Actually, that's probably non-functional, I would guess, because it doesn't look like Yasmin's one. So, nonetheless, dragged into the corner and dumped there because it is a hoarder's camp after all. Got a few bits on display. I'm guessing the collection has been expanded since this point in time, but nonetheless, displaying things in your bedroom, your little home space works quite well. Getting stuff onto the walls in here, obviously with them being broken windows and glass and stuff, can be quite awkward, so a little patience is needed. I believe I found when I did mine, the best thing to do was decorate the walls first and then put your furniture in afterwards. as otherwise you start having even more issues. So it can be a little challenging to build up here, but nonetheless, it makes good space for a bedroom, and if you're going to sleep somewhere where you might potentially be snuck up on, having a little bit of height and getting yourself out of the way seems like a good idea to me. So yeah, a nice little camp, this one. Very scrappy, very wasteland, and looks really, really cool. Nice job done there by Kirsten Bear, or Kirsten Bear, whichever one it is. Awesome. So, camp number 2 is another PC build, this one coming from Two Mallard, which looks like an interesting play on a name there. It's quite cool, like it. And it says it's been on a kick building next to stations as a matter of convenience recently. That makes sense to me. It's definitely a convenient place to build if you can. This one turned out looking great on the slope site with a new greenhouse set, and I've got to agree with that. It says enemy spawns at this location can be a bit of an issue, but I'm guessing Meyerlurg says this looks to be right next to Lewisburg Station, and I had no idea you could build this close to that station. That's pretty cool. It's a good spot, it's convenient, I wouldn't say it's exactly central, but it's not on the edges of the map either, so not bad there. And what we've got here is a impressively neat camp that does look very wasteland and like it belongs at the same time, which is often a tough balance to strike. I usually lean the other way and go for scrappy as all hell, because it looks like somebody could just drag stuff back. But in this case, there's some really, really cool bits and pieces going on here, and it looks great. The combination of the sort of brownish red rusted metal and the greys on the foundations there, and the bits of wood, those sort of reds and greys work really well with the lighting in the ash heap, so it's a good choice of materials to work with in this location. I do like the newer rustic greenhouse set. It mixes up the stuff with compared to the older greenhouse set, which is a bit neater and tidier, and definitely looks very, very cool. Some really cool bits we can see in the sort of overview here that I definitely want to pick on. So if we have a look at the fence around this place, you can actually see it's not a fence, it's all gates. We've got obviously entrances and exits and access to different areas from the big double haunted house gates, the iron rail gates there. Obviously this came with the original haunted house set that was first released last year and is now been recently re-released with Halloween coming around again. Obviously there's a new set as well. This is primarily the older one, but rather than using fences in between those big gates, there seem to be smaller gates used instead, and obviously you can snap all those together. If you lock them, they basically become fences instead of gates anyway. It does create a much taller fence. You could use the chain link for this. That also came as part of this set. But if you really want to stick with that tall iron railing look, which is what we've got here, that works really well. This is a brilliant idea. I absolutely love that. It's very cool. And use the large ones for gates and the smaller ones to create fences. It's quite nice. We've got a very square building. And it ends up looking quite tidy, which is cool. There's a few little bits sticking out here and there just to break it up a bit, which is really what makes it work, because if it was just square, it would be kind of too much, I think. And I do like the use of the junk fences here and there just to kind of pull a bit of shape out of that, which is really cool. So yeah, definitely like this one. Nice easy access to all of the crafting areas and stuff out front from the look of this. And it looks reasonably fortified. And obviously things can get in at the Collectron and the front entrance here. But they won't get into the main camp with the big heavy gated walls around, so that's really, really cool. So dropping around to the other side, we can see the real slope on the ground here, which always gives me mixed feelings. I do struggle a bit with foundations being that high, but they've been sort of covered up quite nicely here, and it's round the back, so we can kind of get away with that, can't we? You see a nice combination of mixed materials there, the brickwork and the glass as well, because it's a kind of cool modern vibe from this angle, which I like. I'll have a look at the inside in a minute. Then we've got the Blood Eagle nest tucked on the back there. Not sure what's going on inside here, because a very thorough job seems to have been done with the haunted house window boards there, just to secure it up and shore the thing up a little bit. It's actually something I did very, very recently, and quite happy with the results on that. Merged in the windmill there as well on the top, which really changes up the shape and mixes things up. It works quite well. It looks almost like it belongs. Although I'm guessing if you get inside, it's a bit more obvious. So maybe this is sealed off. We'll have to see if there's a picture of that in a bit. How that merge was done, I have to admit I haven't the foggiest. Possibly using the standard merge glitch, in which case that's some creative thinking with it. But that is a couple of very big objects to try and merge. Looks very cool though. So jumping back around to the front, we have a little look at the courtyard, the sort of more secure inner area here. We've got some vendors on the go. Absolutely essential symptomatic in the back, or at least in my opinion anyway. Stash boxes, everything that you really need to access quickly when you're just making a flying visit back to your camp is out here in the front where you can get at it, which is cool. Kind of neat and tidy and clean, but in this particular build it works. Looks like we've got some brick walls doubling up against the railings there, the gateways. I'm guessing some flamethrower work done to put those together. At a glance here, it looks like the symptomatic there is tucked really far back in the corner, and given the size of the collision box on the back of that thing, that kind of makes me think the flamethrower must have been used liberally behind it to persuade that to sit that far back, but it looks really neat, tidy, and quite cool. Do like that. So, heading on inside, we're looking from the front to the back here. We can sort of see the Blood Eagle nest there, and it looks like that is open. We've got some terminals in the back there, sort of looks like that space is being used, and we can't really see the legs sticking through, so I'm interested to see how that has been dealt with. As long as they meet the ground, that could actually look quite fine, but I wouldn't think they do. Looking inside this greenhouse area, though, we've got few things that I really like. Nice to see the power armor on display there. I don't tend to use them a lot, but they do look cool. Create a really nice set piece in the center there. Use of the plants and stuff and the really high roofs. High ceilings can look weird in Fallout, but with the plants in here and some tall items like the power armor displays, it kind of offsets that a bit so it looks a bit more normal. I do like the use of the angled walls there, the inverted triangles that are pointing inwards. How that was managed, I'm not quite sure. I would think they'd be awkward about snapping there, but maybe not. It definitely creates a bit of extra sort of three-dimensional texture to the roof, which looks really, really cool, and kind of offsets the weird height thing going on in Fallout sometimes, which is definitely a good shout on there. I like that idea. That's pretty cool. And a combination of green flooring with the plants and stuff like that going on inside. I can't really tell here whether or not that's rugs on the plantable, farmable dirt tiles, or whether or not the farmable tiles were used and then swapped out after the plants were put in. Hard to say for sure. Actually, I'm thinking probably the latter, swap them out afterwards. Because we look like we've got a few plants just kind of growing out onto the floor there, which they would probably not normally want to do, but it does create quite a cool garden vibe in here, which is sort of a wasteland garden greenhouse type vibe, which is really, really cool. So, looking at this place at night from the other angle, now we can see what's been done with the roof, how that's managed. It's the sloped rectangles. There's a name for that shape which completely escapes me because I haven't said it since I was in school way too long ago. But yeah, that explains why they snapped in a bit more willingly. It looks very, very cool. It divides off the sections a little bit. As I say, offsets that really high roof quite nicely. A nice little bit of evening lighting in here. Interesting combination of conduits and then the cage bulb lights. I don't know if those are attached to the sloped roofs or they're actually attached to the conduit. I'm guessing the conduit. It looks really cool and makes a nice effect. That's a nice little trick. Definitely like that. This place definitely looks welcoming in the evening. Those lights do make it nice and homely. I do like them for that. A bit more of a daytime view looking the other direction here. We sort of peer out to the front courtyard. Big step down into this place here, which explains why the walls are so tall at the back. I'm guessing from the look of this, what the player must have done is use the sloped foundations in order to set the floor down a bit, because otherwise they won't match up in height, which will then mean the main building pieces won't snap together, which clearly they have done here very neatly, so carefully organised this. Got big steep steps down into it, but it definitely gives it character, and I like the look of this. It's really, really different and creative. I like it. It's cool. Heading into one of the rooms on the end here, I'm thinking sort of at the back of the picture we were just on. Then we have what would appear to be the weapons and sort of other crafting room. Got a nice little bit of decoration going on with the Thanksgiving sort of display case there. The sideboard, I suppose it is, isn't it? Some cool stuff on there. Looks good. Nice and scrappy. There's an interesting technique. Making shelves out of rugs. That's definitely interesting. I'd imagine as you're running around it'd be a bit more obvious what's happening there as opposed to in a picture from this angle, but cool to provide a little extra wall shelving there. It'd be nice to have really small bits of shelving that will fit next to windows like that. Definitely highlights a need in the building system, that. We've got a nice little compact sort of crafting room here. We've got, I think those weapons displays behind the weapon bench here at the front will have fit quite nicely on the wall. With this particular workbench, you can kind of snap them on there okay, and things play ball. You might need to use a flamethrower occasionally, but you can combine them quite nicely there, and it does create a very, very cool look. And it looks like there's some merging going on with the stash boxes underneath the chemistry station at the back here. That's definitely a nice look. Fills up a small gap that would otherwise be empty, so that's quite cool. Looks really good. Yeah, definitely like this one. Nice combination of bits and pieces here. Everything is tucked in neat and tidy, which is cool. It keeps the neat vibe of the rest of the build going on, with a little bit of rough around the edges and the sort of bare, dirty walls. So definitely very wasteland. And given that the stash box, the little cabinet in the corner there, and of course the workbenches as well, always look fairly scruffy, it works well with the rest of the walls. They kind of blend together quite nicely. It's cool. I like this a lot. So a bit of a reverse angle there, looking through the door. We can get a bit of a better look at the weapons bench, and the Tinker's bench is merged nicely in there. Again, I did that one myself quite recently as well, and it does look quite cool. Changes the shape, and it means the bench kind of matches with the rest of the decor a little better, rather than just being that one odd green thing in there. So obviously it's still green, but it does kind of blend with the cabinets on the walls and stuff as well, quite neatly. Getting that toolbox onto the cabinet on that shelf there is easier said than done. It can be merged in, but it definitely requires some sort of thinking outside the box to make that work, so always cool to see that done as well. So if we have a look at the other end of the building here, looks to be the case. Anyway, we have the other crafting room. Looks like we've got the player hanging out in the corner here, I'm guessing, in the Raider power armor. But again, same sort of theme. Got scrappy metal cabinets all over the place, and the various workbenches sort of merged into them to keep that vibe going quite nicely. A couple of nice bits of wall decoration going on in here as well, just break up the otherwise blank surfaces, which is always a good way to go. Not so much space to move around in this one from the look of things, but looks like you can squeeze through there in power armor, so that is the main thing. Definitely looking cool in here. So, stepping out the back of it, we can see the couple of water purifiers and the Blood Eagle nest there. We could see the power connector coming off the bottom of the windmill there quite neatly, but I don't see the legs of it. So, there's some very cunning concealment going on here. I think that might be them at the back, just either side of the bank of computer stuff there in the middle that I'm forgetting the names of now. And you can sort of see them poking through, and they're lined up very neatly, which is cool. That blends in surprisingly better than I thought it might. I think the price of that is the slight bit of clipping going on at the top there, but it does look very, very cool. We can just say that they cut a section away of the roof to make it fit. That's fine with me. That's a different approach, and I really like this one. It's a very, very cool camp. So yeah, very neat and tidy in a lot of ways, and a little bit of interesting merge work done here to create a pretty unique style on this camp. I've got to say, I like it a lot. Very, very cool. So yeah, two very, very cool camps to take a look at today, and massive thank you to everybody who has sent their camps in, especially our two contributors today. Definitely enjoyed having a look around those. I would have liked to have a couple more in here, as I said before, but I had quite a lot to say about these, so rather than have the video run on to a crazy length, I thought we could keep it to the two today. Obviously, got a few more tucked away for future episodes, so if you have submitted your camp already, and do watch this space, they will be appearing eventually. I do like to spread these out a little bit. And it kind of depends what Bethesda release for building with as well, because we'll see. Maybe I'll have some more builds to do very, very soon as well for myself, which is what's kind of kept the gap going here, which is why it's been a little while since we've done one of these. But yeah, very much appreciate everybody sending theirs in. As I said before, if you want to send your own camps in and appear on a future episode, then do check out the channel's community page. All the information is over there. And do have a little look down below the video at all those buttons and links and things that YouTubers always ask you to check out. I very much appreciate it. Really helps out. And join us for live streams as well. We are, of course, continuing to play Fallout 76, doing more builds as well, and we're playing a few other bits and pieces coming up as well. We've got some really cool games lined up. We're playing Metro Last Light at the moment and having a really good time with that, and there's more fun stuff on the horizon, so do join us for those. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.